Don't forget to subscribe, and turn the notifications. We upload daily, and check the source of this video to view all the images and videos if there was any. Media playback is unsupported on your device. Media caption: Big planes and jogging guards. Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un have arrived in Singapore. The U.S. says its discussions with North Korea are moving more quickly than expected, ahead of the joint summit in Singapore on Tuesday. The preliminary talks between officials have been taking place ahead of the highly anticipated first meeting. The White House also confirms that President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un will hold a one-on-one meeting, with only translators present. Mr. Trump will then leave the country that same evening. Earlier, North Korea's state media talked about a new relationship with the U.S. And the U.S. has said it will offer North Korea unique security assurances in return for denuclearization, according to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He insisted the U.S. would accept nothing less than complete denuclearization. What's the feeling ahead of the talks? Singapore's Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan, who met Mr. Trump and Mr. Kim separately on Sunday evening, told the BBC that both leaders were feeling supremely confident. The U.S. President and North Korean leader are staying in separate hotels, not far from each other, and will meet on Tuesday at a hotel on Sentosa, a popular tourist island a few hundred meters off the main island of Singapore. Mr. Trump has said he has a good feeling about Tuesday's much-anticipated summit. Mr. Balakrishnan confirmed that Singapore was paying for the North Korean delegation's stay, describing it as hospitality that we would have offered. What has the U.S. said? Mike Pompeo, Donald Trump's top diplomat, said that the president was fully prepared for his meeting with Kim Jong-un. He said the U.S. would be satisfied with nothing less than the complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, with verification a key part of any deal. Image copyright Reuters, Getty Images. Image caption: The two leaders arrived in Singapore several hours apart. The U.S. was prepared to offer certainty to North Korea so they could be comfortable that denuclearization isn't something that ends badly for them. He would not be drawn on what might be on offer. Mr. Pompeo stressed that economic sanctions would remain in place until North Korea completely and verifiably eliminates its weapons of mass destruction programs. What has North Korea said? Highly unusually, North Korea's state-run media are already reporting on Mr. Kim's trip to Singapore to meet Mr. Trump. As a rule, they would only report on the leaders' movements after the event. An editorial in Rodong Sinmun confirmed that Mr. Kim had traveled to Singapore to meet Mr. Trump and that, "We will establish a new relationship to meet the changing demands of the new era." It continues, "Even if a country had a hostile relationship with us in the past, our attitude is that if this nation respects our autonomy, we shall seek normalization through dialogue." Why North Korea's comments matter. Analysis: Laura Bicker, BBC News, Singapore. Media playback is unsupported on your device. Media caption: What should Donald Trump call Kim Jong-un? For decades the U.S. has been a sworn enemy. There are even anti-American museums in Pyongyang. But the state is now trying to sell the idea of talking to what it once described as the incarnation of all sorts of evil, the empire of devils. And that was some of its milder language. So let's examine a couple of key phrases from Rodong Sinmun. In the English version, the summit is sold as a chance to realize the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and other issues of mutual concern, as required by the change era. It's the change era that is important. North Korea has spent decades building up a nuclear arsenal at great cost. Kim Jong-un needs to tell you his people why he's willing to negotiate. His New Year's speech, the one that kick-started this diplomatic process, was all about North Korea's strategy of building the economy, having achieved the goal of becoming a nuclear power. This has echoes of that. These pages in the paper are significant because they pave the way for a possible change in the state's message, and it helps those watching argue that this time with North Korea, things could be different. Read more from Laura: How Kim the Outcast became popular. How did we get here? The two leaders have had an extraordinary up-and-down relationship over the past 18 months. Mr. Trump's first year in office was marked by bitter exchanges between himself and Mr. Kim, as North Korea conducted several ballistic missile tests in defiance of the international community. The U.S. president successfully sought to tighten UN sanctions on the North, and to get its traditional ally, China, to go along. He also famously vowed to unleash fire and fury if Pyongyang kept threatening the U.S. Mr. Kim has called him mentally deranged and a dotard. A defiant North Korea carried out its sixth nuclear test in September 2017. Soon after, Mr. Kim declared that his country had achieved its mission of becoming a nuclear state, with missiles that could reach the U.S. In early 2018, a remarkable turnaround in the relationship occurred. It started with significant diplomatic overtures from North Korea towards South Korea during the Winter Olympics. In March, Mr. Trump shocked the world by accepting an invitation from Mr. Kim to meet in person. What do both sides want? Denuclearization has been the central issue in the run-up to the talks. The US wants North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons, but North Korea is widely expected to resist that, and it is unclear what it might ask for in return. Media playback is unsupported on your device. Media caption: the three things North Korea wants. Mr. Kim has also said he wants to focus on building the North Korean economy, and thus wants sanctions relief and international investment. The question is what concessions he is willing to make, and whether he will stick to any promises made. Still, the US is not necessarily expecting to get a final deal in Singapore. President Trump has described it as a get-to-know-you situation, and said, it's going to be a process.